Welcome back to Gatabud. This is my guide on the Musclehead Coliseum Advanced 6-Man Battles. I did them in hard mode. It pushed me quite a bit. You don't have to do them in hard mode for the Platinum Trophy. I did this for Pride, and I learned a ton, and I figured might as well put a video out there, because if you want to push yourself and get better at this game, this is a great place to start. I might be stating the obvious here, but my first tip is if you're struggling on this, enter Chapter 12 on a different difficulty. Because I started all of this in hard mode on Chapter 12, and it's probably logical that you would do that too because you're trying to get all the manuscripts and everything else, but look at this on easy mode. The Jabberwock is going to get absolutely obliterated by one Firaga. Like, this is a joke. I haven't even switched characters yet. I'm not going to use a single synergy ability yet. So, if you don't want to be pushed as far as difficulty and whatnot, do it on easy. There's no shame in that. This video is going to cover these battles on hard mode though, because that's how I did them, and I was too stubborn to stop and try easy mode, and I really had a great time doing it as well. So if you want to push yourself, get better at this game, get ready for the brutal challenges, you've come to the right place. First things first, we got to do prep. There are a lot of status moves that cause a lot of issues. Toad is a noteworthy one with the Great Malboro. So you need a decent amount of white capes. And then, secondly, safety bit is also helpful. You can block Petrify with warding materia. You can have up to 4 maxed out warding materias, but we actually need to sometimes use warding materia to block other status moves as well. I would say 3 of these are enough. You will be blocking Petrify some with this, but you also want some other accessories as well. When I completed the main scenario, I went straight to Chapter 12 because I wanted to redo all of the side quests and get a bunch of the skill books to try to level up my weapons. And I started doing all of the Musclehead Coliseum battles that require the complete the main scenario requirement. And what I found is most of them, not all of them, but most of them are 2 very high level fiends in each round that mix and match the same enemies but in different combinations. Some examples are the classified intel enemies such as Quetzacoatl and others. The only one I can think of that I didn't see was King Tonberry used in this way, which is probably for the best. That would cause a lot of problems. But a lot of these battles had the Great Malboro. A lot of these battles had the Mind Flayer. They had King Zoo. And they had the Petrify Dragon from Cosmo Canyon. I forget his name right now. And a couple of others. So you'd get 2 at a time. And on hard mode, this is really, really hard. But it's a lot of fun. And I cleared about 3 of these thinking, man, I can't believe I haven't been hearing about how hard of a time people are having with this. And then I realized that I don't actually have to do this on hard mode. I can just enter this on easy mode, and it's not hard at all. And that's true. But I realized I'm getting good at this, though, and I'm having a lot of fun. I'm going to press on. And I did every single one of these in hard mode. I'm going to show you this last one unedited because it has what I believe as the most problematic combination of fiends that would really mess with you, and it really pushed me to the limits on what I did as a setup. The party combinations look like this. For the first battle, Aerith carries the bulk of the effectiveness there. And then on the second battle, this is the setup right here. The materia selection's really important. I have access to 5 warding materias. For the second battle, they all get elemental fire to deal with King Zoo, to make sure that they're basically invincible. And then we have to do warding to block petrify and stop. So I'm warding stop there. I don't actually know if King Zoo petrifies, but I have access to it. And a lot of other battles require the blocking of petrification, so that's how I have them set up. I don't want to have to be doing custom builds on all these battles. This will carry you through most of them. So if you have white cape on them, you got to block petrify with warding. Now, secondly, Barret is going to block warding because he's the one that gets the accessory that puts you at level 3 limit right out of the gate. And that I liked to have on Cloud most of the time, but for this final battle, it just didn't allow me to do this. Cloud had to have the ribbon, and you're going to see why once we get to that battle. But other than that, they share kind of common themes where we get HP and MP up. Everyone has to have revival. Everyone has to have healing. Since Barret has low MP, he gets a magic efficiency 1. Some people... Looks like I'm double prayered on Red 13. That's what happens when you switch around materia a lot. Red's materia loadout isn't super important. And then Aerith, though, is very important. Aerith needs to be able to cast fire to take care of the Petrified Dragon. And Aerith gets a safety bit. Red has a safety bit to block Petrify that way. And Cloud has a couple of noteworthy things. When you have enemy skill, you shouldn't be using Elemental Thunder offensively because you effectively get that from enemy skill. And then he gets a lot of like ATB type stuff to help unload as many abilities as quickly as possible. And then also ATB boost. And then the standard healing and revival. So let's just show this battle because it shows the 4 toughest enemies. Quetzacoatl's not included. Quetz is the easiest one. You want to block thunder and deal ice damage, and it's really straightforward. This battle really is something special. I had an awesome time doing this. I chose this starting 3 lineup because they are the 3 that I didn't need to deal with round 2. The way that you do these battles is figure out which pair is the harder one for you and throw everything you got at the harder pair and then make it work otherwise. So the main threat here really is the Mind Flayer, and the reason being is the Mind Flayer can one-shot your entire party if it gets off its instant death move, which it doesn't really do until you get it below 50% health. The Jabberwock isn't that big of a deal. The biggest thing is it spams Petrify moves, so as I stated before, you have to have every character immune to Petrification. That's really the best way to deal with it. I don't want to have to rely on cleansing materia and casting Isuna. The way that I have this set up is I want to super buff Aerith to deal with the Jabberwock, and I have Barret equipped with the accessory that gives him instant level 3 limit. So Aerith and Red need to build their synergy commands as quickly as possible and Barrett's just kind of there until playing a major role later in this fight. The Mind Flayer gets pressured by synergy skills, which gives him probably the hardest pressure out of any of them, and it can be kind of difficult to get set up here because the Jabberwock messes with you so much. Additionally, because of how difficult round 2 is, I don't get to use any defensive elemental materia to make this easier. So I really kind of push myself to be in a less than ideal situation to set myself up for better success in round 2. Once I get there, I don't want to fail. The way that I like to super buff Aerith is to get Radiant Ward up, I want to get Arcane Ward up, I want to get ATB Ward up, and I want to keep her hasted. And once those 4 things happen, she suddenly becomes a force of nature. You can get the benefit of all 3 of those wards by stacking them in the same place. And then once that setup is complete, you can start hurling Fyras at the Jabberwock and do very significant damage here. And my overall approach here is to kind of play a balancing act, because in a perfect world you just take out one of them quickly and then you have an isolation matchup, but it doesn't really play out this way because of the way that the various enemies will mess with you during the fight. And essentially what we have here is a best defense is a good offense type stuff. So if you keep both of them staggered and both of them pressured kind of simultaneously, you no longer are fighting for survival and you're taking these guys down quickly. So you're going to see me do some kind of unconventional things like stagger the Jabberwock and then just kind of ignore it and leave it there staggered. I'm just buying myself time, because what I'm really trying to do here is set up kind of a grand finale with a bunch of level 3 limits firing off and doing some major damage quickly. One of the things that makes Aerith so great is Soul Drain. You can get your MP back, and it is far more effective when the enemy is staggered. So whenever I stagger an enemy, I try to get at least 1 Soul Drain off so that I can keep firing Fyras at the Jabberwock. Now, by getting the synergy moves off with Aerith and Red, it puts them both into level 3 limit. And what I want to do here is get rid of any limit breaks that I have, and Aerith should be full with her level 2 limit, which will transfer her limit gauge to the other 2 allies. And what you can do is, in a perfect world, fire off 4 max level limits within about a minute's span. The Jabberwock should be so damaged from throwing Fyras at it that it just kind of gets taken out in the blast radius, and you're really focusing on the Mind Flayer. Once you start bringing the Mind Flayer down, you essentially don't want to give it the opportunity to do anything significant, because it will wipe you. It's really easy to lose track of what one of these guys is doing, and when it has an instant death move, that's a recipe for just abruptly wiping and not even know how or why it just happened to you. But after an absolutely sizzling conclusion to round 1, we are on to round 2. This right here is probably the most intense and diabolical duo that Square Enix could throw at us in these duo matches. We've got the King Zoo, who can do Swan Song, which is an instant wipe to your team. And we have the Great Malboro that just spams these breath moves that ruin your party. And right out of the gate, what we have here is Swan Song starts, and within seconds of Swan Song starting, we get Putrid Breath from the Great Malboro. And this is extremely problematic because you have to cripple the wings in like 30 seconds or less, and the Putrid Breath makes this near impossible. For those reasons, Cloud has to have Ribbon here. There is no other configuration that I can think of that will make this work. I also have Cloud fully loaded with everything ATB related I can think of. He gets enemy skill, he gets everything. We've got to throw everything we've got at that King Zoo to make sure it doesn't get off Swan Song and end this fight in like 30 seconds. Also, the Great Zoo is weak to lightning, and while I do have elemental fire for defense on all three of these characters, you can essentially get elemental thunder by using plasma discharge. So I literally barely survived this opener. And this was probably like the 5th or 6th attempt where I failed just to get past the opener. But I know now that I'm in business and I can do this. So let me talk about the Great Malboro real quick though. The breath moves make it to the point where Yuffie really shines on it. And almost in every single one of these battles, I had Yuffie essentially 1 versus 1 against the Great Malboro. And when you learn how to mitigate the issues with breath, you can actually just kind of leave it and dodge it and just focus on the other thing, because once you isolate and get it 1 versus 1, it's pretty hard for you to lose with Yuffie. A lot of things have to go really, really wrong. So we want to just take out this Great Zoo as quickly as possible because it is the real threat here. And if you get a Swan Song, you're done. So you got to get rid of this thing really, really fast. The reason that I have elemental fire defense on everyone is because I don't want to be interrupted while trying to take out the wings for Swan Song. That small act of occasionally absorbing some fire damage can actually be the difference between winning and losing. And I want to throw literally everything at this thing. So I want to summon Odin. I want to get any limits I can burn. Whatever I've got, I want that King Zoo gone as quickly as possible. One thing that's kind of like an ace in the hole here is Yuffie's Thunder Banishment move. When the wings come back and you have this thing fully loaded, it instantly takes out one of the wings. So use that wisely. Thunder Banishment is great. Also, it is a terrific time to burn your synergy skills, even ones that don't even build your limit level. You just want to do anything you can do to get these wings gone ASAP. And lastly, one other thing you can do to stop Swan Song is just finish staggering it. So if you have even a level 2 limit ready to go or anything like that, that will also get the job done. And you still have to do all of this with the possibility of a Great Malboro doing Putrid Breath on you in the middle of all of this. So that's why these characters are equipped with things like the White Cape to block Toad. I use the warding materia with maxed out time materia to block Stop. And at that point, your main threat to your characters is getting slept from the breath. At this point, I consider getting Odin out a major victory and a major milestone in this fight. It can really help me get over the hump and finish this thing. I have Odin equipped to Cloud instead of Gilgamesh simply because it gives Cloud higher attack power, and I just think Odin's cool. I have Gilgamesh on Tifa and had the opportunity to rise get Gilgamesh out. I also would have gone that route, no problem. At this point, Yuffie is essentially out of MP, and I know that that's going to cause me issues going down the road with the Great Malboro. So I'm trying to think through how I can get off the Purification level 3 move to try to give me some MP back and still get rid of this zoo really quickly and not mess around too much. At this point, I'm really taking my time and making sure that I'm making the correct decision to get rid of that zoo and set myself up for success against the Malboro, which really is just surviving. So I decided that going ahead and using Yuffie's limit to defeat the zoo was the way to go here, and it did work. With the zoo out of the picture, this is a new battle completely, and the Great Malboro 1 vs 1 is so much more manageable because you can dodge most of its attacks pretty effectively. The AI does a great job of not getting caught up in the breath radius, but it does happen sometimes. But we just want to throw a bunch of ice ninjutsu at it from a distance with Yuffie, and when it starts to use its breath move, you'll start to kind of see a red circle appear on your screen indicating that it has a weak point. And what I like to do is when I see that red circle, I want to press X and make sure that I have the mouth properly targeted. And if you have Doppelganger and Ice Ninjutsu up and Haste, Yuffie can typically take out the mouth just from mashing square. But just in case you need some extra firepower, you can use an ATB command or something like that to also help boost that process. But getting the Great Malboro pressured is a really great way to speed up this battle and make it a lot easier. And by using those ATB commands as well with Yuffie, that charges Purification, which when you use level 3, you can get a lot of MP back, and that's generally what I want to do here. I also know that at 50% it's going to use its Haze move, which essentially gives everyone a poison, but it's not like it's a poison status effect. So, like, Ribbon doesn't block it with Cloud, and that can really quickly take out your team if you're not careful. Yuffie really needs MP to be able to cast Cure on herself, and when you have Doppelganger up, you kind of get like a double cure, and I have Swift Cast linked to the healing materia, which is maxed out, so I can really quickly give myself lower tier cures, burn ATB, because Yuffie really just gets ATB so quickly that I am totally fine with casting Cure 1, Instacast, and just keep moving on. After winning, don't forget to go buy Dio's autograph for one of your 88 items at Johnny's Inn. As a result of completing the Musclehead Coliseum, I personally am at 86 out of 88 now on Johnny's Seaside Inn. We got the 6 Musketeers from following this guide. If you can clear those 6, man, then the silver one is absolutely effortless. I took this exact build and entered with Cloud and Yuffie and had Yuffie spam Windstorm and made very short work of that. And then, as stated before, we had Dio's autograph. So there's a couple of mini games in here that you haven't seen covered on this channel yet. I'm about to make videos for the harder ones that I think are noteworthy, that I have something of value to share with you. So look forward to that, but I appreciate you joining me once again here on Gatabud, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I have more Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on the way.